Representative Pat McElrath will be presenting the bill. You can present right there if you like, ma'am, or you can come to the podium. Y'all will come. Representative McElrath will be joined by her co-primary sponsors, Representative Bradford, is Representative Baker here, and Representative Art. So we'll have all four, y'all. I'm outnumbered 4-1. So move forward, and Representative McElrath, you're recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I really appreciate you letting us get this bill going this morning. And I'm going to be very brief. I'm just going to explain what the bill does very quickly, and we'll be here to answer questions. But each of my primary sponsors, we will recognize them. Representative Bradford, Representative Harp, not Representative Davis, Representative Baker. And just want to thank them for their participation. They have much more knowledge than I do. So I am so happy that they're here to help support this bill. What House Bill 453 does is it prohibits individuals from performing an abortion unless the physician has confirmed that the abortion is not being sought because the actual or presumed race or sex of the unborn child, or because of the presence or presumed presence of Down syndrome. And it also has a reporting requirement. They are already reporting requirements for the age of the fetus at the abortion. So this just says that the doctor, he signs, not under oath, but just signs to say that he has asked, or she has mentioned, he has confirmed that it's not because of discrimination and of race, sex, or Down. And I would like to move over so that my other sponsors could say a few words, and then have Mr. Chair to speak.
Before we do that, I wanted to ask you a question. Was this previously heard in the Health Committee?
Yes.
Did it receive a favorable report?
It did.
And there was a referral to here, and then it'll go to rules if it gets a favorable report here.
Yes, sir. I think it's on rules today.
Would any of the other primary sponsors speak? It's your time to shine. If you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my colleagues and bill sponsors, members of the committee, guests. I see a lot of same faces from yesterday in health, and I'll try not to be repetitive of my comments, but I do think it's noteworthy that just weeks ago, the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals did reverse a decision on a bill just like this in the state of Ohio. And so that's germane because similar bill, and I realize that there's strong opinions on both sides of this. The ruling said that it felt like the intent of the law, which I would respectfully submit is our intent, at least here in North Carolina, as it was to Ohio, was really to protect the Down syndrome community from the stigma that it often suffers from the practice of Down syndrome selective abortions. And is intended to protect women who suspect Down syndrome from coerced abortions and to protect the medical community from unethical doctors. Yesterday, there was a comment from one of my colleagues, Representative Adcock, who I consider a friend and respect her, and she made the comment that she was somewhat bothered by the assertion that that perhaps that comment makes her field seem unethical, and I don't take it that way at all. I mean, I think every field has its bad apples. I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. So I would just say that I am, next week, I actually will have a young man with Down syndrome who will be my 4th employee as a legislator of hiring individuals who have Down syndrome to be employees in my office. And I do that, you know, because I believe that, that these individuals who often are in the shadows and get left behind are so capable and willing and able to be productive members of society that I want to try to lead by example. You know, I'm not a woman. I've never experienced pregnancy myself. I do have 4 children. And I know this is a broad topic. This bill is narrowly tailored to race, gender, and Down syndrome. And it just limits the ability to have an abortion based on those 3 things. You're going to have an abortion for other reason. This bill does not touch that. To me, the idea that an individual who is being forecasted as having Down syndrome, because not all these screening tests are always accurate, by the way. That's an important note. But in the event that perhaps the screening was accurate and a baby was born with Down syndrome, I promise you that individual has so much to offer us, and I would challenge everyone that we probably have more to learn from individuals with Down syndrome than we could ever teach them. That has been my personal experience. So that is why I support this bill wholeheartedly. You know, I do not cherish the debate that follows because it is not my intent to wade into those waters other than just to say that do not want to discriminate against individuals who have Down syndrome and not give them a shot at life. That to me is egregious, and I just couldn't bear the thought of it. So that's why I'm on this bill. Appreciate your support, folks.
Thank you for your comments. Representative Baker, you are recognized if you would like to speak. You'd like to speak? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members. And I know what the other representatives are going to cover. So in light of that, I would say to you that as a physician who specializes in child psychiatry, I have spent my life advocating for those who are most vulnerable. And I believe that that's how we're going to be judged. And I would say to you that those who may not or cannot stand up for themselves, those are the people we must protect. And that's what this bill does. And so I join my colleagues in recommending this to you. This is an opportunity to defy discrimination. And most importantly, it's an opportunity to defend those who cannot defend themselves. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Representative Arp, you're recognized.
Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to be here with my other colleagues today. What I would like to quote here from the American Medical Association Journal of Ethics says, eugenics, defined here as the practice and policies designed to promote the reproduction of people with desired attributes and thus avert the reproduction of people with undesired attributes, i.e. people with disabilities. The idea that the world and the people in it would be better off if everyone were born healthy, that is without defect, is the essential principle of eugenics, literally translated as well-born. What we're here today is this bill HB453 is because women are choosing to have abortions because the child is suspected of having Down syndrome. It's up to us as legislators to decide whether we should allow these results to be used as a discriminatory way and literally eliminate people on the basis of their sex, their race, or disability. I would argue strenuously that we do not want to be that kind of society that not only discriminates against, but disposes of children because of the way they are created. 70% of the people in a recent survey said they oppose abortion because the child has been born with Down syndrome. It is for that reason we've introduced House Bill 453. What House Bill 453 does specifically is prohibit a doctor from performing abortion if that doctor knows that the woman's reason is that she does not want a child with Down syndrome. This prevents modern day eugenics that eliminates people before birth because of their disability. At that time, I'll just stand for questions.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any questions or comments by any member of the committee? Representative Hunt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 3 questions, if that's.
You have a series of questions. Ladies recognized for a series of questions.
I don't know who wants to answer. Whoever.
I think the best way to do it is ask the question, then I'll just join.
Okay.
Whoever wants to come forward
That
will have
sounds
that.
great. All right. My first question is, do you think that pregnant women deserve to have comprehensive information about their pregnancy?
Representative McElrath.
Absolutely. That's why when I was in the minority here, we were able to override the governor and get a woman's right to know, to get comprehensive information so that woman could see the ultrasound, so that she could make the decision. She could make the decision as to whether she wanted to abort or she felt that was a real baby, live baby. And in that case, with that bill, we actually have saved probably over 3,500 little babies a year because a woman had the right to see the ultrasound, a woman's right to know.
Follow up?
Thank you, sir. So do you all know that healthcare providers are opposing this bill and that one of their chief concerns is that it would deter women from engaging in thoughtful discussions with their providers about their pregnancy and the options they have?
Dr. Baker, you're recognized.
Thank you. And thank you, Representative Hunt, for that question. I think that I would note a couple things. Number one, healthcare providers is a big, large term for a number of providers. So obviously you have physicians who would be on both sides of this issue. But in relation to that discussion with the patient, I think it's important to know, and sort of following up on Representative McElrath's comments, that there is a lot that patients should know, women should know. And one of those is what a high false positive rate of Down syndrome there is in these screening studies, extremely high, up to 15% or more. So then you're talking, so understanding both whether the test is accurate or not, and we talk about false positives, that's key. So again, in that discussion. And so I think that what this does offer is it offers an opportunity for those understandings that may or may not occur otherwise. And I think that also the understanding of what does a life with Down syndrome look like, that has changed dramatically over the years. And so the outcomes and the opportunities and what that person may or may not offer, we are not in a position to predict, but we certainly can talk about the successful outcomes and the variance there. So just like in any other form of discrimination where we can't say because of a certain label that you carry, I'm female, whatever your eye color is, any number of other issues, whether or not you have Down syndrome, that is not a predictor of a productive or unproductive life. And so I think those discussions, bringing those to bear in a doctor-patient relationship only enhance the woman's ability to make an informed decision. So thank you for that question.
Yes, ma'am.
One more.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
all right. Thank you. I know that it was mentioned that the Ohio law banning abortion recently was upheld. And we know that laws based on pre-viability have been deemed to be unconstitutional because of the law of the land being viability. So we know that what happened in the Sixth Circuit was that their reasoning for upholding the state's ban was that the law did not actually prevent women from obtaining an abortion based on Down syndrome because she could simply seek an abortion from a physician who does not have any knowledge of her reason. So, the ban clearly bans abortion for some women in our state, but we do not think that people should have to lie or withhold information from their doctors. You all see it that way, or is there another way that you had to read?
Representative Arp, recognized to respond.
This law is very simple, in that it simply says a woman cannot terminate an abortion for the reason that the child is of a certain race, certain sex, which is already law, or Down syndrome disability. It says nothing about the fact that she cannot get an abortion. This also does nothing that hinders the information exchange between patient and doctor. All it says is that this bill regulates the medical profession, which we all do. It says that a doctor cannot knowingly promote eugenics by performing abortion because the child has Down syndrome. Specifically to the point that you raised earlier, is that there was a survey done that genetic counselors were responded, says 76% of these genetic counselors have offered and counseled on the termination after 24 weeks. 93% of the respondents believe it's the responsibility of the counselor to discuss this option with patients. However, 1/3 of those in report say that they have some or no understanding of the procedure, and 3/4 of the report say that they have some or no understanding of federal abortion laws. And so what we see here is that many times the women do not receive the full information about the condition of the or severity of the Down syndrome child, and therefore make decisions based upon a coerciveness. And so what this bill does is not allow the doctor to perform an abortion when the reason known is race, sex, Down syndrome.
Anything else, Representative Hunt? I'll take care of it. Certainly. Any other questions or comments by any member of the committee? Representative Jones, I know you have another one. Is there anyone else who would like to have a question or comment? Representative Jones, you are recognized. By the way, he and I have known each other a long time. That's why I like to jab him a little bit.
Yeah, Davis is a good man. Look, I stupid enough to have trouble. This bill. Well, let me ask my first question is this: does it have
Recognized
to?
for a series of questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Does it have to be the physician that gets this information? Could it be someone else on the low? It could be a nurse, maybe medical tech. I mean, because they have a little chart and they could go down the list. And I'm asking for a specific reason because I think a physician is in a very, very special kind of spot. I have a brother-in-law. I know some physicians, they take their jobs very, very seriously, as do we. And I hate to see them put in this spot. So did you give any consideration of someone else asking the question?
Representative Art?
I think the law is clear that this law regulates customary medical profession, the doctor. Says that the doctor cannot perform the abortion. The doctor knows that the reason for the abortion is that the child has Down syndrome.
Doctor.
Follow up?
So that's why you made it. Doctor has asked. That fair to say?
Doctor performing the abortion.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? You have a follow-up, sir?
It's I do have a follow up.
Please.
Why the issue of race? Why was that put in?
Representative Art?
Because that's a discriminatory practice.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Any other questions or comments by any member? Committee member, Representative Potts, you recognize?
For the motion at the appropriate time,
Just
Mr. Chairman.
Hold that thought if you will, please. Hearing no other questions or comments by the committee members, I'll open it up for public comment. I have people who have signed up in support of the proposed legislation as well as in opposition. I'll try to go back and forth and hopefully we can get everyone heard. I'm going to murder this last name and I'm sorry, but Dr. Wing. And how would you pronounce your last name, sir? Ning? Well, might have been able to figure that one out. You're recognized, sir. Please state your name for the record and any organization that you may represent. We'd be glad to hear from you.
Thank you. My name is Wing Ng, and I am a physician in the field of rehabilitation medicine. But more importantly, I am a husband and a father to 2 girls, including my oldest one, Jaden, who has Down syndrome. Over the years, I have cared for many with serious and disabling brain injuries. At times, it is hard to see how someone could regain any quality of life. Nevertheless, parents would come to me pleading for a fighting chance. I am the first to admit that no physician can predict with certainty how a person will turn out. Therefore, I fight alongside the parents for their chance for the children's recovery, not really knowing the ultimate outcome. I carry that same belief in my own life. Jaden has been a blessing to us, and she brings joy to everyone around her. She had tons of therapy growing up, and she works very hard every day in her homeschool, and it has paid off. Just like my patients undergoing rehab, she has shown that with lots of love and plenty of hard work, she can surpass our expectations. We fight for her chance to succeed, not because we expect her to earn a living, but because she is a child of God, created in His image. We cannot place the value of one life over another based on a disability. That is discrimination. As such, the abortion of babies based on the diagnosis of Down syndrome is a form of discrimination because it places the value of the woman over that of the unborn child. This goes against the spirit of the Americans with Disability Act. The euphemistic notion of women's choice and reproductive health hides the ugly truth that this is the killing of innocent lives, those that some would deem life unworthy of life, and harkens back to the days of the eugenics movement. Babies with Down syndrome have every right to exist as God intended. So I am pleading to you today that they should be afforded that same fighting chance to live and to succeed, just as my Jaden did. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Is Han? Yes, ma'am. You're recognized if you'd like to make some comments. If you just state your name for the record, please.
Hi. Opportunity. My name is Han Ying. I'm the mother of 13 years ago when the physician told me that my first child, Jaden, have a high risk, have a high possibility that she has a Down syndrome. It was a devastating news for my husband and I. But with our faith and we believe God does not make a mistake. Now, after 30 years, this journey, we all agree, both of us, we became a bit better people. And right now, when we go out, we see people with a different kind of a disability, can be a CP, can be Down syndrome, autism, or people with brain injury, people with a stroke. People have a hard time to walk or couldn't see. We all have a compassion towards those people. So often people will tell us, oh, people with Down syndrome, where is the quality of life? Oh, they are suffering. Oh, they become too much burden for society. But let me tell you, we cannot quantify a person's life. My Jaden, well, she used to go to school. The people's life she has touched. Her classmates right now, after 5 years, I'm pretty sure now her classmates, when those classmates graduate from school, when they go into the society, the way they feel more comfortable and compassion and to help people with all different disabilities. And even just changing my husband and I, our neighbors and her teachers. Actually, one of her teachers from 2nd grade, after she taught Jaden, she actually came to me. She said, no, Jaden is just such a loving person. I wanted to continue my study. I wanted to become a teacher for the special needs children. This is how my Jaden touches other people's life. We just cannot quantify this to put a value how much money she can make. This is how she changes people's life, and this is her value in this society. And again, God does not make a mistake. Years ago, I watched a Spider-Man movie. There's a sentence somebody say, with great power, it comes a great responsibility. So here I'm pleading you, you have the power to speak for the people who cannot speak for themselves. Thank you. And while we are waiting here, Chairman, if you allow, actually Jaden wrote something very sweet about her. Probably just about 1 minute talk, if you allowed.
I'll allow that. She has a beautiful smile. How are you? Welcome to the committee.
She just.
Hi, my name is Jaden, and I have Down syndrome. I know I'm God's child, and I love my life. Okay. I like to tell people about what I can do. I can draw, piano, and I like math, reading, spelling, and grammar. I like swimming. My favorite stroke is breaststroke, and thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade. I appreciate you being here. Paige Bryden. Please state your name for the record and any organization that you may represent.
My name is Paige Bryden, and I am the wife of Carter and the mother of Mac, 22, and Miller, 24. Miller has Down syndrome. Today's worldview offers something that looks like freedom but ends in bondage. But God offers us something that looks like bondage but ends in freedom. At 24 years old, an abortion promised me complete freedom from an unplanned pregnancy. In great distress, I grabbed that offer. I had the abortion. But soon, bondage rode in like a flood in the form of depression, shame, guilt, and a string of bad decisions. I was a wreck. Fast forward 12 years, now 36 and married, I delivered our first child, Miller. Much to everyone's surprise, Miller was diagnosed with Down syndrome. Our dreams of a corporate superstar were dashed. The weight of the unknown, the medical and cognitive implications, and the longevity of this assignment overwhelmingly created a sense of bondage like an enormous ball and chain. I personally wondered if this was God's retribution for the abortion. I got it, and I accepted it. But as Miller grew, so did an awakening in our lives. Miller is filled with kindness, tenderness, and compassion. He loves the unlovable, and he touches the untouchable. Miller's love has no boundaries. We have never experienced this before. The short-term materialism we lived for has been replaced with a desire to be like Miller. We are changed people, and we are better because of Miller. See, I thought that God had given me a child with special needs so that I could teach him how to live. But the truth is, I was the one with special needs, and God sent me, Miller, to teach me how to live. And as I stand here today, I am so much more certain of Miller's purpose here on this earth than mine. For the sake of our humanity, and for all things tender and kind and compassionate, I ask you to pass the Human Life Non-Discrimination Act. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Julie Scott Emmons. Welcome. If you just state your name for the record and any organization that you may represent.
Thank you, sir. My name is Julie Scott Emmons, and I represent the North Carolina Values Coalition. I have a quote that's been on my desk for a while now. It says, "There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children." That's by Nelson Mandela. Jaden's story and the stories of so many others who have Down syndrome reminds us of one very clear truth. The fact that every single person, regardless of how many chromosomes they have, has inherent dignity and worth and unlimited potential, both before and after birth. This bill places a hedge of protection around an entire class of human beings who should not have to pass a genetic test to be born. Allow me to share a vision for North Carolina. We envision a state where goodness, truth, and beauty in every single individual is embraced. A place where all babies are welcome, differences are celebrated. The focus is on ability, not disability. North Carolina, it is time for us to join the rising number of states that are passing legislation such as this. We respectfully and humbly ask for your support for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Kara Mueller, did I get that right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Tara Muller. I'm a policy attorney at Disability Rights North Carolina. Thank you for having me, and thank you, members of the committee. People with disabilities in North Carolina have fought for decades against laws that restrict their bodily autonomy. We have restrictions every day on where we can go, who we can spend our time with, where we can live, where we can work, even if we can go to school in some cases. Disability Rights North Carolina imposes restrictions on bodily autonomy, especially when they're in the name of supporting people with disabilities. Forcing people to carry a pregnancy to term does nothing to help people with disabilities. This is not a disability rights bill, and it doesn't address their real needs. Instead of limiting rights, we respectfully ask the General Assembly to consider ways to support people with disabilities that add to their rights. There are lots of ways. There are lots of excellent bills pending right now to support people with disabilities. For example, there are 15,000 people in North Carolina right now on the Innovations Waiver wait list. We call that the Registry of Unmet Needs. 15,000 people with severe intellectual and developmental disabilities who are still waiting for supports that they need to thrive in our community. There are lots of ways to support people with disabilities without taking away the rights of people to make choices about their own bodies. And just for the record, we're not interested in trading bodily autonomy for services. Both are of the utmost importance. We're just suggesting that if you really want to help people with disabilities, there are ways to do it without restricting the rights of people to make decisions about their own bodies. We've heard today about how frightening it is to hear that there may be a disability in the family, and that saddens us. Imagine how much less frightening things would be if a family knew that at the end of the pregnancy there would be such community support to help them, like a warm handoff to Medicaid, for example, for home-based community services. What we'd like is to throw out the outdated assumption that it has to be frightening to raise a child with a disability in the state. Instead, let's show what's possible when our communities show welcome and support. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Susanna Birdsong, you please come to the microphone, identify yourself for the record, any organization that you may be representing.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Susanna Birdsong, and I'm the Director of Public Affairs at Planned Parenthood South Atlantic. I'm here to speak in strong opposition to HB453. At Planned Parenthood, our healthcare providers give our patients evidence-based information and answer all questions with openness, compassion, and honesty each and every day. By forcing doctors to scrutinize and second-guess people's reasons for seeking an abortion, HB453 discourages those honest, confidential conversations that happen between providers and patients and undermines that relationship. Contrary to the justifications provided for this bill, it is not about promoting equality, but about inappropriately inserting politics into personal medical decisions while making doctors a mouthpiece of the state. This bill does nothing to address discrimination or improve the lives of people with disabilities, as Tara just mentioned. In fact, it only does one thing. It stands in the way of people seeking an abortion. In practice, the provisions put forward in this bill would negatively affect providers by interfering with their relationships with their patients, their ability to deliver high-quality care, and the path to building true equity in the healthcare system. A patient's decision to have an abortion is a personal one that should be made in consultations with their families, their faith, and their medical provider. Every family situation is different, and what is right for one isn't necessarily right for another for a million different reasons. And no matter what decision a person makes about their pregnancy, all patients must be fully informed, cared for, and supported through their decision-making process. If enacted, this bill will harm real people, and I urge you to reject it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ann Webb, you come forward, please. Take the microphone. If you identify yourself for the record and any agency that you may be representing.
Thank you. My name is Ann Webb. I'm the Senior Policy Counsel at the American Civil Liberties Union of North Carolina. I'm here on behalf of our more than 25,000 members across the state. Decisions about whether and when to continue or to end a pregnancy or to raise a child are best made by pregnant people, their families, and their healthcare providers. Each of us knows our own circumstances the best. Politicians should never force anyone to make a particular decision about reproduction or to become a parent against one's own will. HB453 comes out of a national playbook of anti-abortion laws designed to erode abortion access and to push it out of reach for many. This bill is not about racial justice or disability rights, but is instead a thinly veiled attempt to strip bodily autonomy from all of us. HB 453 is about undermining a person's fundamental constitutional rights to abortion and privacy. In the past 10 years, anti-abortion politicians around the country have passed hundreds of medically unnecessary and politically motivated laws, creating a web of barriers that push safe and affordable healthcare out of reach, especially for poor women, young people, and people of color. I urge you to see this bill for what it is, yet another law meant to deny people bodily autonomy. Please vote no.
Thank you for your comments. Tara Romano, you would please identify yourself and any agency that you may be representing.
Thank you. My name is Tara Romano, and I'm a director at NARAL Pro-Choice, North Carolina. And our goal at NARAL has always been to ensure real and tangible support for whatever reproductive healthcare decisions people make, including for terminating a pregnancy or carrying a pregnancy to term. Our values underlying this goal are that we trust all people can make their best decisions for themselves and their families, and that as a society, we owe it to our fellow North Carolinians to provide the comprehensive, accurate, unbiased, and non-judgmental information and care they need to make these decisions. The bans proposed in House Bill 453 seem to run counter to this. This bill is another attempt to coerce people's personal decisions and further stigmatize abortion care, while doing nothing to address the complex and intersecting needs of pregnant people making these decisions. And by forcing providers to question the motives of their patients, this bill will increase stigma and stress rather than providing care and comfort. Like all anti-abortion regulations put forward, the main goal of this bill is to further restrict access to abortion on the way to criminalizing all abortion care and to punishing both doctors and patients for accessing abortion. We urge lawmakers to look at their priorities this session and to commit to supporting North Carolinians with access to reproductive health care and justice. This includes access to abortion. This also includes Medicaid expansion, access to paid sick leave, protection from pregnancy discrimination on the job, and protection from police violence. All bills that could be passed by this legislature this session. People making decisions about reproductive health care, including abortion, require comprehensive, honest, medically accurate, and compassionate conversations with their healthcare providers, and that's something that this bill would prevent. Pregnant people and their families in North Carolina need less judgment and more compassion and support, and we urge lawmakers to vote against this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Jerry Royal, you'll state your names for the record, any agency that you represent. We'll get you the microphone. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Jerry Royal. I'm counsel for the North Carolina Family Policy Council, and I speak today in support of House Bill 453. In 2013, the North Carolina General Assembly prohibited sex selection abortions where the sex of the unborn child is a significant factor in the mother seeking an abortion. House Bill 453 would also prohibit a physician from performing an abortion if they know the abortion is being sought because of the actual or presumed race or sex of the unborn child, or because of the presence or presumed presence of Down syndrome. The preamble to House Bill 453 states, "It is well established that human life begins at conception and continues in an unbroken progression through birth until death." It goes on to say that all human beings from conception through death have intrinsic dignity and worth, which includes the inherent right not to suffer discrimination on the basis of innate characteristics such as a human being's race, sex, or genetic characteristics, including any genetic abnormalities. North Carolina's laws should value and protect the lives of these precious, vulnerable, innocent babies and prevent discriminatory eugenic abortions. We urge you to support House Bill 453. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The last speaker to sign up, Mark Creech. I believe he was here earlier, must have stepped out. Therefore, Representative Potts, you are recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for a favorable report to House Bill 453 with zero referral to Rules, Calendar, and Operation of the House.
That is the motion before us. Any discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it, and the House Bill 453 will receive a favorable report. Thank you. There no further business to come before the committee. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.